Greetings from that city on the bay, and welcome to the Mongoose Internet Audio Show. And once again, the mongoose is on the loose. As many of you know, President Obama's poll ratings are a paramount disaster. This is no surprise, however. In fact, this was done by design, and I'll explain why. To begin with, you have to go back to the presidency of George W. Bush, who held the office before Obama. Whether you like the guy or not, you have to admit that the more he was attacked by the media, the more smug and arrogant he appeared. Why? Why was he so smug and arrogant when he should have been more emotionally affected? What did he know that we didn't? Before that question can be answered, it is essential that you understand that the Bush family is, by family blood, connected to the highest powers residing in Europe, or the world for that matter, the royal family in particular. They are, in fact, relatives. The International Bilderberg Group, the CFR, and other mega power groups have been intimately connected to the Bush family for a long time. This is no secret. The Bush family connections, which even includes Hitler, are well known and all over the internet for all to see. In contrast, where does Obama come from? Kenya? Hawaii? Indonesia? Is his name Barack Obama, or is it Barry Soetoro? Will we ever see an authentic birth certificate with authentic witnesses? The point I'm making here is that when it comes down to who the international big shots relate to and favor, it's not hard to figure out. Bush is an old-time hack, and Obama is a young, fresh, dark-skinned puppet. Who do the globalist powers above truly favor? Do you remember when Obama's wife affectionately put her hand on the Queen? Do you remember the Queen's reaction? "How dare you touch me, you lowlife?" Well, she didn't actually say it, but her reaction was pretty clear. Who does the international elites truly favor? Their blood-tied neocon relatives, or this gang from Chicago who is anxious to prove how dirty they can play the game and fool the American public in the process? I think that the answer to this question becomes obvious when you sit back and realize that much of Obama's foreign policy is a Republican neocon's dream come true. This brings us to the crux of this presentation. How did the mainstream media screw Obama? First of all, the evidence is all over the internet that top members of the mainstream media attend the Bilderberg and other international power groups in deciding who will run for president and how the media will cover events. Therefore, if Obama is going to continue the highly unpopular policies of the Bush administration, why would it allow its overwhelmingly Democrat reporters and commentators to savage Bush and his policies, knowing full well that the next president, which will most likely be a Democrat, will have to run against these policies and then continue those unpopular policies? Admittedly, there is the notion that because Obama is dark-skinned, the left, or even the general public, will, out of white guilt and minority favoritism, go along with Obama no matter what he does. Personally, I don't think that the true international powers who control mass media are that dumb. A lot of Democrats are that dumb, but they are just a tool for the elite, same as the Republicans. Why was Obama put in a position like this? This defies the simplest logic and common sense. Therefore, one can only conclude that some higher logic is at work here. Imagine for a moment that you are Obama and you are running for the Democratic nomination against someone who has a reputation for being an overly ambitious and ruthless politician who really hates to lose. A politician who has a reputation for going after her enemies. As you have guessed, I'm referring to Hillary Clinton. After a political mud fight with someone like this, what are the odds that you would immediately, and I say immediately, put this person at the helm of your vital foreign policy? If a person most likely resents your victory, the last place you would put them is at the helm of foreign policy. Some of you may fancy the idea that they have made up and are making amends. This is very heartwarming and nice, but unfortunately American politics is not heartwarming and nice. Don't kid yourself. If you were really serious about improving foreign relations with Islamic countries, would you send a woman? Better yet, would you send a woman who parades around Israel trying to convince everyone she is Jewish? Would you send a woman who threatens to obliterate the Islamic State of Iran? This can only have a jinx effect. Personally, I think Obama is much smarter than that. Ronald Reagan didn't want George Bush Sr. to be his running mate, but look who he got. Can you see the point? No ordinary logic can explain this. Therefore, extraordinary logic can only explain this. In short, if anyone has the power to mess up a president, it's the person at the helm of foreign policy. Why would you put your political opponent there? Good question. Now, consider the fact that the Democrat Party is primarily made up of socialists and social democrats as far as its members are concerned. If that be the case, why would Obama want to advocate policies that blatantly extract massive amounts of taxpayer money to give to the wealthiest people on earth? Well over $20 trillion was heisted out of the economy by means of the Federal Reserve, which is not federal, by the way. It's a conduit to the international banking cartels. Taking from the poor to give to the rich doesn't seem like a socialist or communist ideal. Assisting the globalists in the creation of an international corporate cabal that has no allegiance to the United States is the antithesis of what communism and socialism stand for. From a party perspective, this seems utterly suicidal. Fortunately for Obama, corporate fascism and communist state control appear very similar. But still, they are not. Both systems have control freaks running them, and it can be difficult to distinguish one control freak from the other. But the corporate nature of all this is simply not true communism, it's more like fascism. In short, Obama has been set up like a bowling pin. The Tea Party movement, which is a faction of a larger patriot movement, is like a bowling ball heading straight for the kingpin. The Republicans are doing what they can to turn the bowling ball into a growing snowball while maintaining some distance. They know the patriot movement is also being set up as well. But who is the winner in all this? The neocons. That's who the ultimate winner is. Remember the Clinton presidency? The Clintons came into office as centrists and then took a radical turn towards the left. The media did everything to help accelerate a decline in the polls that led to a neocon revolution, producing an abundance of Republican seats. Once the Republicans are seated, the media then makes the Republicans into villains, and Bill Clinton is brought into a second landslide term running against an old hack, Bob Dole, who obviously lacked the charisma and skill of Bill Clinton and could not possibly win. Does this remind you of John McCain? Another old hack who can't possibly beat the young charismatic favorite, yet runs anyway and doesn't even try very hard to win. Obama, just like Clinton, comes in on centrist pretenses. He then goes into a radical change agenda that ignores the will of the people, just like the Clintons. His polls go down so much that just like 1994, here come the neocons and their Republicans like an army marching right into the numerous congressional seats in the next midterm elections. If they get a majority, they can keep the administration in a compromised position while the mainstream media makes them into villains. Obama can then win a second term because the Republicans have no presidential candidate with the essential popularity and charisma. Sarah Palin is the perfect losing prospect for them to run. The media has already demonized the hell out of her when she was McCain's running mate. I don't see how she can win, but she is the only bright, shiny, charismatic candidate the Republicans have to offer. Why is the media so anxious to propagate her as soon as the election is over, when all during the election they savaged her? Can you see the setup taking place? Sarah Palin is demonized and demonized and demonized, and after the election she is propped up and propped up and propped up. Why? Is the mainstream media schizophrenic? I don't think so. When Bill Clinton won his orchestrated landslide against a damp rag candidate, Bob Dole, the media immediately knocked his polls down with the rape scandal. I think that most of you would agree that a candidate with low polls will need the media and can be manipulated by it easier than a candidate with high polls. So watch out, Obama.